Hi again. Today we are talking about wealth, or our seemingly lack of wealth. I'm going to be sharing why I think it's important to look poor if you are wealthy, and it doesn't matter how you created the wealth. Maybe you are a frugaler like me. You live frugally to save and invest as much as possible. Maybe you have a very successful business. Maybe you have a rich uncle who died and left you loads of money, or you won the lottery, or maybe you just love to work and you're constantly working and creating money that way. Doesn't matter how it is. I'm going to be sharing why I think it's important to look poor. So grab a pen. I'd like you to make notes and we'll get into this. Okay, so the most important reason of all is the psychological effect. Because if you are somebody that feels the need to look flashy and live this kind of overt lifestyle where you're showing off all of your material possessions and trying to look rich, then basically you're having to keep up with whatever the society standards are when it comes to that luxury lifestyle. This means you're going to be spending stupid money on expensive bottles of wine in the club, always having the latest new flashy car, having the big house on the hill. Or depending on how weak-minded you are, you might even buy into that stupid mentality of buying designer clothes that are the latest trend, spending a fortune on what somebody else has said that you should wear. I mean, come on, think for yourself. Think about what you want to wear because you think it looks good or because you feel comfortable in it. Don't just wear something because somebody else said it looks good. Anyway, if you do all of these things, then you're basically putting pressure on yourself to look good in the eyes of others. Like, do you really care what other people think so much that you can be bothered to put all the time and effort into appearing rich? And by the way, although I've never been dumb enough to buy into the whole designer clothes thing, I was foolish enough to buy an expensive car in my late teens. And I'll tell you, apart from the fact that you get pulled over all the time in a nice flashy car, the novelty wears off so fast. It's like when you get a new phone, like it lasts for like a month or so and then you're bored of it. And it just becomes standard issue. When you choose not to enter the affluent arena, you become content with the things that you already have. You already have enough. You don't need any of this other stuff. It's not going to make you any happier. So you learn to cultivate a kind of appreciation for the things that you have. And although more money isn't necessarily bad, if you can't be happy with what you already have, then you're never going to be happy. My advice, don't flaunt your wealth. Save and invest your wealth, because by doing that you're going to create more wealth for the future, and you're going to be able to reduce your working hours, which means that you can then have more freedom, which means that you can then have more peak moment experiences, which are the two things that money can only really buy that are of any real value. I'm talking things like travel, bucket list items that you've always wanted to do. I talked a lot about this in last week's video, so if you want to, you can check that out. Okay, the other reason that it's important to look poor if you're wealthy is because of gold diggers. And I'm not just talking about women here, I'm talking about anybody. Because if you start flashing the cash, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have people like who you thought were your friends. They're going to come start knocking on your door asking for borrows. You might even have family members coming and asking you for money. You're going to have strangers sometimes even asking you for money, and if you don't help these people out, there's going to be jealousy there. There might even be jealousy anyway, and you don't want these people to try and go on some kind of weird vendetta and try and make your life uncomfortable. This is all stress that you don't need just because they're jealous. In fact, minimizing stress is a lot of what this video is about, because the less you appear wealthy, the less stress you will have. Honestly, it astounds me how many people will get into debt to try and live a luxury lifestyle. I mean, what a headache it must be to constantly be having that debt hanging over you. And I'm just going to finish with this, because any guy that's watching this thinking that having money or flaunting money gets girls, like, yeah, okay, it will get a certain type of girl, but not the type of girl that you'll want. I'm going to tell you a funny little story here. So a few years ago, I was in a nightclub in the city where I'm from in the UK. And it just so happened that I knew the guy who was the manager. So I would get free VIP passes whenever I would go to this club. Not that I really cared or used them, but occasionally the club would get really busy, and the VIP area was always a place that you could kind of go and get a breather because it wasn't so packed. So this one night I was in there and I got talking to a girl, and everything was going well. We were talking half an hour, maybe an hour, and then I suggested about us leaving and she agreed. As we were leaving the club, I said, I've got my car. It's in the car park. And you know what she said? She said, "This better be a Porsche." And she wasn't even joking, by the way. This wasn't a joke. She actually said it and meant it. So imagine her disappointment when she seen my $500 Renault Laguna in the car park. She went back into, I think she went back into the club. I went home and I laughed, and I was pleased about it, because like some guys might look at that and they think, oh, well, you didn't get the girl, or you didn't get laid, or whatever. Like, no, it wasn't about that. Like, I don't want to date and meet girls like that, because they're a waste of my time. Like, and you should think the same too. Like, any girl that cares about money is not worth your time. These are not attributes to be looking for in a woman. And I'll tell you something else, actually. Like, I've always, apart from when I was in my late teens, after that, I've always drove what we call bangers in the UK, like cars that are worth, well, at the most $1,000. So I've always drove those ever since. And I've dated tons of girls. And honestly, it's very, very rare that a girl has actually like said anything about it or even cared. Like, usually what would happen is she would get in the car and laugh and say like, oh, I've never seen a window winder in a car before. They don't care, honestly, because if your vibe is good, if she likes you as a person, then that trumps everything. That's what's important. And I've said this many times in my other videos. So if you want to check those videos out, I recommend that you go and do that. I'll leave links in the description for those. So yeah, forget about money. Vibe is what's really important when it comes to building attraction. And hope you got something from this video. If you did, hit that like button, and I will see you next weekend. Ciao.